ما بننكسر ما بنستقيل ما بنقر ما بنخر ما بنلين ما بننكسر ما بنستقيل ما بنقر ما بنقر ما بنلين. مساء الخير، السلام عليكم. أنا سعيدة وشرفني وجودي معاكم اليوم. شكراً لكنداكا إن وايت and Spring Magazine على تنظيم الأمسية دي، وهحاول أتكلم في نقاط بسيطة حسب تصوري ومن خبرتي عن كيف ما هي الخطوة القادمة للثورة السودانية. اسمحوا لي هتكلم بالإنجليزية، ولو في زول عايز أترجم بالعربي ممكن أترجم بعد ما أخلص. So I'll speak about what next for the Sudanese Revolution, and I'm going to organize my talk into three major themes that I believe, from my experience, that are the next steps for the Sudanese Revolution. The first thing, in my opinion, is organizing ourselves. And I'm speaking about us in diaspora as well as how we link to the communities inside Sudan. And not only in the capital, but around the country as well. And in diaspora, I'm not only speaking about us in Canada, but all of the Sudanese diasporas in the various countries who've played a major role in this revolution. So I'll speak about organizing ourselves. And my focus is also about women's organizations and groups, very much, although it's not limited to that. In terms of self-organizing, we've just put up a video. I don't know if it was successful or not, but I've also made the translation of the script into English. And the video shows an experience of a Sudanese lady, Awadia Mahmoud Koko, who is a tea seller, a tea vendor. But she gives a very good example of organizing. She's managed to establish a women's trade union for tea and food sellers in Sudan. And I believe this is a brilliant example. In the video, especially the first 6 minutes, she recounts how she started with other women, how she was just venting out in the street, facing lots of roundups, oppression, targeting, harassment, you name it. But she managed to persevere along with other ladies. They found solace in their unity, and they found power in coming together. And I think that's a very interesting example for us all to learn from. It's an example of self-organizing, expanding your networks, and coming together around the goal, and setting very clear objectives, I would rather say, for what you wish to gain. And throughout the video, it's a very educative video if you get a chance to see that later. She simply gives a step-by-step model of how to organize and how to have clear objectives, as I said, and goals. I will give another example. This, to me, is an example of grassroots organization that's coming from below. It's a very popular example and experience. Another example I'll give is the Sudanese Doctors Union. How throughout the years of Al-Inqaz regime, Sudanese doctors have been organizing. The fact that most of us have been forced into exodus from the country did not stop our organizing. The Sudanese doctors immediately re-established themselves in the countries of exile and started organizing. Continued to have their activities, come together in different forms, extend support also to those working inside Sudan. So again, this is another example. If we put it into blue collar versus white collar versus popular organizing, I think these are two examples from diverse and differing groups of members of the Sudanese society. Intricately, I would like to say, even before like by April, Sudanese doctors have already put together a program for the transitional period. So, and by now, the transitional program, the transitional one-year program to revive the health situation and the health system in Sudan has already been forwarded to the cabinet. This gives us an example of preempting, of continuing to organize, of being ready for the next step. When change comes, we don't want to be empty-handed. And I see that from various groups of the Sudanese communities. The youth, for example, have been self-organizing and getting ready for the next step before it happens. And I think this has helped us progress smoothly throughout the years. And the revolution happened in waves. We faced many, I wouldn't say failed, but we'd reach a stage and then regime is still there. For example, in the 2013 uprising and up until 2019, we have managed to overthrow it. So it's cumulative, it's progressive, and we need to keep pushing. We need to have very clear goals to come around in order for us to take steps. And we need to measure our success. What have we achieved and what have we failed to achieve so far? The second theme I would like to put is the importance of guarding the revolution. And this is, we are also seeing this on a day-to-day basis. For example, when somebody from the old regime is appointed in a position, people immediately make a stance and they raise their voices in protest. And this has so far influenced some decisions of the transitional government. We need to continue to do that. No one can guard the revolution other than us, the people. And I would like to stress on that theme. If something happens against our will, it's our right and obligation to raise our voices and be heard. And this is an ongoing role. As we say, a thawra mustamira, this is how we need to maintain that pressure. The third theme and last theme for me is the role of women in peace building and in peacemaking. And I think this is one of the things we need to start looking beyond our immediate confines as people in exile. How we are going to link with women in the remote parts of Sudan to help them organize, just like Awadia did with the tea sellers in Khartoum and decidedly expanded her work outside the capital and into the remote parts of the country. We need to learn from that. How are we going to do that? Women have always played a role in peace building. What lessons do we have at the moment, and what are we going to carry forward in the future? We hear of negotiations happening in South Sudan. We hear of influence. We are aware of influence by other countries in the region and internationally. What are we going to do at the popular level? And what role could women play back there? What can we play in terms of organizing, networking, building alliances, and coming together around very clear goals? I want to get back to the first point of organizing. In my opinion, self-organizing is organizing ourselves in unions, alliances, just getting in touch with our perhaps original trade unions. If we are homemakers, then what alliance can we make as homemakers from Sudan in Canada, linking up with other Sudanese communities in exile, and then building alliances and with the women inside Sudan as well. And then building alliances. Alliances are built around specific goals. And I think today's event is one example of networking. And then we can do activities together. We can make joint goals, set them forward, and then start working towards that. And as I would like to refer to what Valerie said about what could Indigenous peoples and workers in Canada do in order to support the struggle for peace and democracy of the workers in Sudan. We have issues that are not unique to Sudan. We have, for example, the port workers in Port Sudan recently. We have land issues as a result of the land grabbing and water grabbing that is happening in Sudan. I'm not naming countries, but we all know the interest of the countries surrounding Sudan in our land. If we just do a mapping, just mapping of agricultural land, water resources, there's appalling facts. Our land is being leased for hundreds of years for very cheap money, and the revenue is not coming to the people. Our farmers are farming land, and the crops are being flown by planes outside of Sudan. We're going to starve very soon. We'll starve while we're producing. And these are very major issues. We have the huge numbers of people displaced by dams. This is a well-known domain of displacement called development-induced displacement. So you do it for a good cause, but in the end, you're not doing anything good to the people. And as I would like to quote Amartya Sen, who's a development expert and well-renowned, he says development that does not take people at its core is just of no use. And this is what's happening in Sudan, and I am confident that many of us are working towards the issue of human rights, displacement, peace building, and peacemaking. Thank you.